Hello, friends. I recently ran into a sentence that I have heard many, many, many years ago, and it just made me pause for a moment because I think it's a very potent question. And the question is, what would love do? What would love do here? What would love do there? What would love do when I'm in this or that situation? What would love do if somebody is unkind to me or unloving? What would love do? And I think, when you're really stuck in some emotional attachment where you either want to be right or you have a lot of pain around it that you just need to express and blame on others and whatever it is, you don't want to ask that question. It's like, well, F love, I don't know anything about love. There's no love here, so I'm not going to bring it to it. I'm not going to ask that question. I think it's very common. I can totally relate to it many years ago, when I was in an emotional turmoil inside. I didn't want to have anything to do with love. I just wanted to feel this pain, anger, frustration, whatever, blame. And because there was something about it that felt good. So I'm just getting now. So, what would love do? What would love do if you're finding yourself in a situation where you feel absolutely awful and you want to kick and scream and hit and blame and whatever it is? What would love do? What would love do? So, of course, as always, I can only relate it to my own experience. And as you probably know, I never plan any of my videos. I just get an impression or an intuition or an inspiration. I just feel it and then I just see where it wants to go. So I hadn't thought of this here, like if somebody is in real distress and they really, really want to express that distress, just to get it out, just to feel it, just to feel whatever it is that this um, painful emotion needs. So, what would love do? And I can also relate it to my work when I sit with clients. If there is something like that happening, it's not that I necessarily think about, oh, what would love do here? No, that's kind of part of the work that I do is to always bring that to the situation more consciously. So if you find yourself in a situation right now where you're really, really upset with probably what's going on in the world, I hear most people have a lot of charge on that. Well, I would say if it were me, I would just really bring love to this whole experience, expression that I'm feeling, the pain, the anger, the fear, whatever it is. I would go like, wow, I'm really upset. Can you feel the energy in that? How different it is than like, "Rah, rah, 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 rah." And nobody's listening. That you have to remember that too. When we're in that rah rah thing and blame, blame thing, nobody's really listening. And that includes ourselves because we're not listening deeply to what is really going on. When there is such a painful expression, it is usually because there is some deep pain, some painful emotions or fear underneath that this expression is covering. So instead of telling yourself, if you instead of telling the part that's out there, fighting and upset and whatever, say, oh, what would love do here? It doesn't mean that you have to be loving to them. That wouldn't be loving to the part that doesn't know how to do that, right? It would just add to the pain. So if we really take some time and say, well, what would love do here in this situation where somebody is in so much pain and agony, I would say, how can we create a loving presence around that so that this pain that is being expressed as anger or blame or whatever, that can go like, oh, oh, finally somebody is listening to me. I've been trying to get, I'm just saying whatever comes to me right now. I've been trying to get this loving attention since I was a little child. Nobody's listening to me, and it made me more and more angry, and I couldn't control the situation in with my parents, let's say, and I got more and more scared and frustrated. Then it means I was acting out even more. But what I really needed was that somebody would just take me and say, it's okay. I love you. So that part that is acting out in the world right now, many parts, there's many people who are doing it. It's not helping. It's not giving you what you want. So the question would be, what would love do here with this pained part that only knows how to act out because that's all it's ever known. Well, what would love do here is, for instance, say something, wow, it looks like you're very upset. And then the part is actually being met in that moment. It's like, yeah, I'm really upset. There's a shift in energy. And then when we allow that upset to just be felt, to express itself, to maybe have some memories come up, and that's of course when we do some of the deeper work, then there is usually a deep sense of pain or fear or loneliness, trauma, whatever. And that is the place where we can say, what would love do here? Well, that's pretty obvious, right? We would just really hold that part and let it feel the love from us, how we have been ignoring it and rejecting it ourselves because we didn't know what else to do with this. So that's the first place we can use the question, what would love do? And it's so funny, again, I had no idea I was going to talk about this that I just did. I had a feeling it was going to be more broad or something. And but then as it starts coming, it's quite obvious that you can't really go anywhere else and say, what would love do if you feel completely upset and scared and whatever inside. There's no way you can be loving. There's no way you can access love and say, what would love do? No, I want to punch them in the face. It's like, okay, well, let's be with that energy. We don't need to punch them in the face because then we're still out there, right? We're still haven't fully connected to what is going on in here or in the belly or somewhere where the pain lives. So I guess that's the answer to that question, at least right now. It's like, yeah, what would love do? Love would meet ourselves in a very loving, kind way, in a way that these parts of us that are acting out have never really experienced. And all the acting out is simply a plea for love. It's like, please hear me. Please listen to me. Please love me. But when you're punching like that and blaming and yelling and when getting angry, there's a good chance you're not going to be loved, right? And I know we've all experienced that. So we do have to start with that love for ourselves. And, what would love do? It comes back to self-love. We have to start by loving all the parts inside of us that are starving for love, both from the outside world, but most from ourselves, not in a mental way, not in a conceptual way, but in a real felt sense, heart felt sense way. That's when things start changing energetically. Our energy, our frequency changes, and we start radiating a new higher frequency that actually has an impact on what is going on in the world. So we will be able to walk in a world, just radiating a sense of peace, a sense of love, because we're not trying to get it out there by fighting for it. So just imagine for a moment, wow, imagine if by magic, everybody out there who's fighting and scared and whatever it is, if they would just pause for a few breaths and turn their attention inside and just feel those emotions that are acting out. So instead of acting them out, right, we're not really in touch with them. We're trying to do something so we don't have to feel it. So the invitation, if we could take that little brief moment in time for the whole world and say, just pause for a moment and see what happens when you just stop, you know, scattering your upset energy into the world, which is of course just adding to it. It's certainly not making it more peaceful or loving for that matter, because we're adding, anger and frustration to it. That's the world we create. So it's not going to work. But if we pause and just like, okay, what is really going on in me that I'm acting out like that? And then feel that. And that's where most of us need support in the beginning. So, I'm not doing this to get you to reach out to me, but it's a practical thing. Most people have no clue how to pause the external, expressive, painful emotions. They don't know because there's such a strong momentum behind it, and they don't know how to stop it. And there's still part of them that believe that by doing that they're going to find what they're looking for, but they're not, and we know it. But until we know what else we can do, we just go on this default, right? And it's like, what is it, doing the same over, and what is insanity or something, is doing the same over and over, hoping for a different outcome. Well, that is what is happening. So if I may add a little sanity to this, like say, well, let's just pause and just be present for a moment. Take some nice deep breaths and then turn our attention inward to feel, to just follow that external energy. It's like you're following it back in. And that's where you start connecting with a part that wants your loving attention. And that is what I would invite you to do. If you can do it on your own, that's great. I think most people do it from their mind because I've seen it so often. They think they're doing it. They think they're doing it. They think they're feeling, but they're not. I'm not saying that's for everyone, but certainly took me a while to really get that, how that works. So please reach out to whoever you feel comfortable with, somebody who can help you, because if we don't do this, more and more of us, hopefully collectively, that we just stop the outer expression of our frustrations and go in and feel the felt sense of that frustration or anger or whatever it is, and then start listening to that and find out what it needs, what it wants, what was missing. And then we can start giving that to it so it can start relaxing, feeling safe, feeling included. And that's when the energetic shift happens, where we simply start bringing a new energy to the world. And boy, do we need that. And you can be part of that by doing the practice, by making this a daily practice, an hourly practice. It gets easier and easier, so that at a certain point, you're always present with your inner experience, so you don't need to express it out. It's just there. You can be with it and you can help it relax and dismantle or tell you what's going on. So it's definitely a daily practice, and we need to change that whole neural network so that literally becomes our default. Well, that was the answer to what would love do. Very surprising to me, but I can see that this is a very important step that we need to take and that I'm happy to share with you.